What's up, guys? This is Raymond Iron by McKinney. Today I'm going to talk about force and mass and acceleration in relation to electromagnetic fields and the center of gravity and the atom itself and how it ties to deliberate manifesting. So as you can see here, that's the center of the focus point, center of gravity focus point. I make these numbers represent clocks, like clocks infinitely spiraling within itself. And the deeper this, within itself, the electrons that make up the atom, electrons, protons, and neutrons that make up the atom, they spiral and gravitate in the direction of the focus point relatively faster because they're in that direction. But when you zoom around here, it goes relatively slower because it contains more mass. And I talk about in this message here that, F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. And such as an object with mass with relatively small mass within center of gravity or the focus point has a relatively fast acceleration rate. I meant to say inversely here. A large mass of an object, relatively speaking, has a relatively slow acceleration rate. No matter the size or distance of those objects, of any objects of mass consists of electrons. They all spiral and gravitate around and within the electromagnetic field of themselves at the same rate of acceleration. And I'm going to expand on these notes here, guys. I'm going to say here that force is mass times acceleration, and then go by the one Newton's laws of motion. For every produced directed action, there's an equal or opposite reaction or effect. Action and reaction are one and inconvertible. Action being the oriented, attuned frequent focus point in relation to the focus, the focus point itself, and then the reaction reveals that focus point relative to yourself, relative to the focus point. The action and reaction are they're the same thing, and they are interconvertible. Directed force of energy, or focus point, is within the presence of mass, like the center of gravity, or like I said, the focus point. Relatively large mass has a relatively slower acceleration rate. Inversely, relatively small mass has a relatively faster acceleration rate. So this is kind of referring to these. That the object with a smaller mass goes at a relatively faster acceleration. Accelerates relatively faster. And the one with a large mass accelerates relatively slower. And shoots up even higher. Goes faster. But no matter the size and distance of masses, they all spiral and gravitate around and within the electromagnetic field of the focus point of themselves at the same rate of acceleration. So when they come up, they come down, like as this one's shot up a little higher, they come down kind of like, they shoot up like this, and then they come down like that. But the thing is, guys, we live in an expanding universe, so the atoms never actually physically touch. They're forever expanding. I, as Raymond, the electrically charged focus point of magnetized varying rates of magnetized atoms, and forever spiraling and gravitating around and within the electromagnetic field of myself. I am the force of light, forever expanding and accelerating through myself as a focus point, receiving my own formed light. I am everything, everywhere, at every time. I am light, energy, information itself, vibrating on various rates of itself. And then I kind of extend on here even more. That you can see here the focus points is shooting out. The focus point. When you think of the Big Bang, for example, the focus point, the center of gravity. All particles, all electrons are expanding. Come on. And you can see here that the larger mass is near the focus point. It just keeps spiraling, and then it gets smaller and smaller because of distance. Then the focus point Because objects only reveal themselves more when it's in the range of the focus point. Well, I've got my cat in the way. And you can see here, guys, that the arrows between those atoms, the mass of objects, it's almost like they're expanding, and yet they're gravitating in the direction of the focus point. So it's kind of this vibrant effect that every atom vibrates. All atoms are vibrating on various frequencies of themselves. Everything's energy vibrating on various frequencies of themselves. And it's just like we just live in a that the universe, that the atom is gravitating, spiraling around and within the direction, around or in the direction around and within itself, the magnetic field, electromagnetic field of itself. And what I kind of mentioned here on the side, what appears, quote unquote, not there, is just out of focus. So whatever's out of, just because something's seemingly not there, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just out of your own relative focus point. The greater frequent focus on a given point, that point will reveal more of itself. And here I'm going to extend on even more, guys. When I talk about magnetic fields governing the atom, look at that right there, that dot in the middle right there. Between the S and N are resemble magnetic fields. It kind of looks like a tilt of the Earth, as you can see there. That the atoms just, and you can see the direction of the arrows right there, that they're just infinitely spiraling and gravitating in the direction around themselves. You can see there, you kind of think of those as like scattered stars and planets and galaxies. That right there, guys, that's a focus point of where those atoms, where the electrons are being shot out or are being emitted as light, fragmented light. Objects of, again, I'm going to read on here, kind of extending on that. Objects of mass emitting themselves through the focus point or the darkness containing light. So, like I said in one video, that light emits itself in the form of darkness, and darkness, or as a focus point. And darkness or the focus point receives or stores itself, it stores light to preserve its shape and mass. The relatively closer objects are in range of the focus point, those objects accelerate relatively slower. Inversely, the farther the objects away from the focus point, or out of range of the focus point, those objects accelerate relatively faster. But no matter distance and size of objects, they spiral and gravitate in focused direction around and within the electromagnetic field of themselves at the same rate of acceleration. So guys, like I talk about here, say, for example, you take maybe a marble or a bowling ball. If you just shoot them up in the air, or a marble and a basketball. If you just throw them up in the air at the same time, the marble will go higher because it contains less mass. And then the basketball will go relatively lower, not as high because it contains more mass. But at the same time, they come back to the Earth because of Earth's gravity, because of the mass. It contains contain gravity. They both fall at the same rate. The basketball and the marble fall at the same rate. So everything that's being scattered, guys, though it appears that everything's randomly being emitted, stars, galaxies, planets, people, events, opportunities, everything, though it appears separate, though it appears just scattered, though it appears random, everything is gravitating at the same rate relative to the focus point. Everything is forever expanding and revealing. This is the forever expanding and revealing universe of spiraling and gravitating electrons around and within electromagnetic field of themselves at same rate of acceleration. And here I go again, extending on force equals mass and acceleration. Force, or the focus point, and mass times its acceleration. Zooming in or out of focus. That's where you get the multiplication symbol. Directed frequent focus reveals mass at a relatively slower rate of acceleration. So, for example, when it comes to deliberate manifesting, tying this to deliberate manifesting, Your focus, whatever you put your attention on, whatever you frequently focus on, habitually. Say $100 bill, for example. If you keep focusing on $100 bill and just keep saying to yourself or focus on, I have $100 bill in my hand. I have $100 bill in my hand. It's going to end up in your hand eventually in a very coincident way. Be open-minded to how things show up in your life, guys. You can't predict how things are going to reveal themselves to you. They come because of what you place your focus on. Everything's already available to us, guys. Everything's available to us here and now. It's just a matter of putting our frequent focus and attention onto the things we desire and desire. Whatever we put our attention and focus on, that's what reveals more of itself. We're not manipulating or creating or destroying anything in the universe, guys. We're simply forever recognize what already exists within ourselves, expressing through ourselves as ourselves. We live in the universe, guys, and the universe is within ourselves. We are simply selecting one of infinitely many viewpoints of what already exists within the multiverse. And this is kind of what I'm explaining this whole video, guys. Your frequent attuned, oriented focus on a desire, ambition, habitually live by, reveals that reality relative to you. Everything's available to you here now, guys. Your focus reveals reality, period. So, guys, I hope this video helps. And I bless y'all and happy manifesting. What will the Iron Body do? I am the Iron Body. I've always been a master magician. Life is rigged in my favor. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Bless y'all and happy manifesting.